Mark Twain once said, I can live on a good compliment, or I can live on good compliments for 2 months. Judging from that statement, that means if we compliment him probably 6 times in a year, his emotional tank love tank will be filled up. Anyway, a woman walked into Gary Chapman's office and complained to him that she was trying to get her husband to paint a room. And she kept on talking. She has spoken and spoken and spoken. And it just doesn't seem to work. Well, after questioning her and making a lot of inquiries, he gave her just 2 suggestions. What were they? Number 1, don't mention anything about painting the room again. And she was wondering, how will this work? Secondly, he said, compliment every other good thing he does, apart from mentioning the painting of that room. The woman walked out of that office with a lot of contemplations. Are you sure this will work? What's this man saying? I'm trying to get my husband to paint the room, and you're saying I shouldn't mention the very thing I want him to do. But guess what? After some months, the room was perfectly painted. What happened? What changed? You want to know? Come closer and let's find out. Hello everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of The Review with me. I'm your host and your walkthrough reading coach, Mrs. Peace Terminal. Here we are reading the book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. Have you been able to catch up on the other chapters? We've been able to review from chapter 1 to chapter 3. And here we are in chapter 4. Yes, we are in chapter 4. But before we go any further, please don't forget, just hit the like button, the subscribe button, the share and the follow. Tag a friend who needs this. Invite someone. And let's find out what chapter 4 has to say. Well, chapter 4 of the book we are reading is titled Words of Affirmation. Yes, we have gone straight into the 5 love languages, and we are dealing with the first one, which is words of affirmation. Now, a lot of people have heard about words of affirmation. They just say, hey, isn't it just to compliment someone? Well, I'm here to shock you, because it is more than complimenting someone. Now, one way to express love emotionally is to use words that build. No wonder the Bible said the power of life and death is in the power of the tongue, is in the tongue. So whatever you speak actually has power. The tongue has it has serious power. Hence, one needs to use it well. Therefore, words like I love the way you look in that dress, or I love the way you look in that suit, or words like I love the way you did this so perfectly, I like how early you are to meetings, actually goes a long way in making someone's heart, the heart of a person's spouse, to be comforted, to be suited, and to feel loved. Now back to the story that I said earlier. What worked and what made the husband paint the room? When Gary Chapman asked the woman, she said, I went back and tried out what you said, even though I had a lot of doubts, because I didn't see how talking about other things except what I really wanted was going to do the work for me. But the more she complimented, she actually came with her husband this time, and the husband said the more she started recognizing every good thing I did, I tried my best to make out time to paint the room, because I realized she was also going to recognize it. So what does that tell us? A lot of people actually glow and bloom when we use the right words on them. Alright, I said earlier that a lot of people have got words of affirmation confused because they think it's just to speak nice words to someone. Did you know that words of affirmation have dialects? Yes, remember, Just the same way we have a lot of languages that are common in an area, most times that same languages have similar, or they have little, not similar rather, they have little differences. For example, let's take Nigeria as a country where we are recording from. In Nigeria, one of the tribes in Nigeria is the Igbo tribe. Okay, so we have a lot of people from different states that are all Igbo speaking, but guess what? That doesn't necessarily mean they all speak the same kind of Igbo. There are dialects of Igbo that are peculiar to the place they are from. The same thing goes for people who are from the western part of Nigeria. That's the Yorubas. They also have the Yoruba of a Lagosian will be different from the Yoruba of an Ibadan person. We also have the Northerners too. Yes, it's shocking but true. When I speak Hausa to you, someone that understands it will ask me, where are you from? Because there's something that shows in the dialect, and that is what we are trying to bring down to love language. So words of affirmation have different dialects. That means a couple can actually have one of their love language as words of affirmation, but their dialects can differ. So even though I know two of us, our love language is words of affirmation, the dialect that speaks to you is probably different from the dialect that speaks to me. And if we want to find out what these dialects are, just pay rapt attention. So we'll start with the first one, which was used in the story, and that has to do with verbal complimenting. Now that woman in the story went back and started complimenting her husband for everything he did. Wow, thank you very much, I noticed you took out the trash. Thank you very much, I noticed you did this, I noticed you did that. And because he enjoyed verbal complimenting, he did extra and did exactly what she wanted him to do. Now that is one of the most commonly spoken words of affirmation love language that people talk about. Compliment your spouse, but it goes deeper than that. Number 2, encouraging words. Now this means use words that inspire courage. Under encouraging words, there was a story also written in the book, True Life Story, remember, of a woman who used to write before she met her husband. After she met her husband, she actually used to still write, but she never got to publishing any of the things she wrote. And then family life took over. But one day, after the husband met Gary Chapman and talked about some of the things going on in his marriage, Gary Chapman got to advise him, why not, do you know of anything that a potential in your wife that has been hidden and she has not done anything about it? And while he kept on probing, the issue of her writing came up. The man went home and asked his wife again, honey, you've been writing before, why did you stop? And she was like, a lot of things, and I don't even know if I'll be able to publish it. I don't know if people will like it. The simple word the husband used was, I love your writing. It makes sense. I think the world will want to hear you. I think the world will actually benefit from your writing. That night, the man went to sleep. The woman sat up thinking, why? Something has been reborn inside of her. Courage was built and dropped inside of her. And before you know what was happening, she took up her pen and started writing again. And guess what? She published not just one, but many write-ups. That's what words of encouragement can do to a person. Therefore, the latent potential energy within your spouse in his or her area of security may be awaiting your encouragement. So sometimes people are actually scared to just go out, to show up, to put themselves out there. Now, it is one thing for you to notice that in your spouse and to encourage them. That's word of affirmation. So do you know any hidden potential in your spouse that they may just need your words of encouragement? Encouragement requires empathy. You need to put yourself in that person's shoes. So that you're encouraging the person, you have to first believe in that person, all right? So it requires empathy and seeing the world from your spouse's perspective. Hence, you have to first learn what is important to them. There are a lot of couples that don't know what is important to their spouse. Before you met that person, or when you even met that person was doing something But after they got married, they actually stopped. I want you to take a pause. Go back home today. Ask your spouse. Find out one thing that they were doing and they stopped. Find out why they stopped doing it. It could be cooking. I used to love reading a lot, and I stopped. When I wanted to start this podcast, my husband told me, babe, you can do it. I've heard you speak publicly and you have a very good command of English. And not just that, you have a presence that people just want to listen to you. That really made my, shoulders go high. And because I knew my spouse was in support, he said something to me that brought up everything I have actually wanted to do and pushed me in the right direction. Now let's move to the next dialect, kind words. From the Bible, we know love is kind. That is one of the characteristics of love. Hence, the words used to express love must be kind. When we say I love you with kindness and tenderness, it can be a genuine expression of love and transmits love in its entirety. But when we say it with a different tone, it transmits something else. The manner in which we speak is very important. Love on its own keeps no score of wrongdoings and failures. So we know that actually while going on in marriage, hurts will occur, wrongdoings will occur. But like the Bible says, it keeps no account of wrongdoings. It is willing and ready to forgive. So what then is forgiveness? Forgiveness is not a feeling. It is a commitment and a choice to let go and show mercy even when you have been hurt. I know a lot of people are listening to me right now whom their spouse have hurt them in one way or the other. Trust me, I know how you feel because I've been there. It's very rare before you see a couple who will tell you honestly that their spouse haven't hurt them and they haven't hurt their spouse. But what I'm trying to tell you today is that forgiveness is not a feeling. You don't forgive because you feel like it. From the moment you said I do, you also said I do to the commitment of forgiving and letting go. You choose to let go and show mercy no matter how hurt you've been. Trust me, healing may be gradual and take its time, but you have to make the choice to forgive. I'm going to stop that there. I don't want us to go so much into that. We're not talking about forgiveness. The next dialect of the words of affirmation is humble words. Now, love makes requests. It doesn't make demands. It makes requests. Remember, in marriage, you enter in as partners. You don't enter as parent and child. My husband is not my father. I'm not my husband's mother. So most times, people women mother their spouse, their husband, and then they parent their husband and then they love their children. Meanwhile, it's supposed to be the other way around. You're supposed to love your husband, everything about him, because you knew before you married him. You're supposed to love your spouse, your wife or your husband. You knew before you got married to that person, and parent your children. So put it in the right order. Use humble words. There's no need to begin making demands. To love each other, an intimate relationship must be developed with each spouse, trying to know the other person's desires. Now, when you know the person's desire, the way you express that desire also matters. Like I said earlier, when you use words that are humble, the expression and the tone which you use to talk to your spouse has a way of elevating their emotions and making them feel loved. Remember in chapter 3, we said after the in-love feeling fades, basically, since we now know that the in-love feeling is temporal, we have to consciously and intentionally pursue the love, the essence of love in itself, the actuality of what love really is in marriage, in order to really feel loved and feel seen. We have to pursue it intentionally and rationally. So one of the ways in doing that also is by using humble words. When you use words that are aimed at saying things kindly to people, you don't make demands. Sometimes when you see the way some couples talk to their spouse, it's demeaning. Before, we used to just attribute it to just men and the way they speak down on women, verbally abuse them. But right now, there are also some couples where it is the woman that is actually doing the verbal abuse, especially when the woman is has a choleric personality and the man a phlegmatic personality. Now you see the reason why we started with the book, why you act the way you do. So when you get to know your personality, you know what you have to work on, and it will also help you when expressing love. Now, number 5, I've talked about 4 different dialects. We've talked about the verbal affirmation, verbal complimentary. We've talked about encouraging words. We've talked about kind words. We've talked about humble words. Now, number 5, which is going to be the last one for today, is indirect words of affirmation. What do we mean by indirect words of affirmation? Learn to say and praise your spouse. Say good things about your spouse, especially when they are not there. So how does this happen? For example, you have an accomplishment or you were given an award and probably your spouse is not able to be there with you. When you go up to receive that award, it's at that point you have an opportunity to actually share the praise, share the compliment, share the winning with your spouse. Say nice things about your spouse. The walls have ears, and trust me, it has a way of going back to your spouse. Wherever you are, you may be called upon for a presentation, and at that point you can say, I just want to thank my wife because while I was preparing for this, she was actually helping. She is my first cheerleader. She was helping me out. Or if it's the woman talking, I just want to thank my husband. He agreed to stay back and watch the kids while I come for this. I really love him. He's a good man. He has been a strong part and a strong pillar of my ministry. So that way, when you make those kind of comments and you use those kind of words, they have a way of going back to your spouse. So we should learn to also give indirect words of affirmation. If you're listening to me out there and you notice that you are a words of affirmation kind of person, you love words of affirmation, it makes you flow a lot. Which do you think is your dialect right here? I've said about 5 different dialects of words of affirmation. Which one speaks loudly to you? Which one calls out your name the most? It's okay to have more than one dialect. It's okay to want more than one dialect, but which really speaks out to you? Now let's note that one whose love language is words of affirmation, words are very important to them. Therefore, once you find out that your spouse has a love language of the words of affirmation, please, I advise you, get a notebook. Let it be with you everywhere you're going. Once you get or you hear a new words of affirmation, jot it down. You are reading a book and you see a new word of affirmation, jot it down. I've given you the different dialects, jot it down. Just keep jotting it down and keep using it to practice. Let that book be by your bedside. You're waking up in the morning, you look at it and you use it on your spouse. You're going to bed at night, you look at it and you use it on your spouse. You keep practicing until you become so perfect that you don't really need the book anymore, and the words of affirmation just come naturally to you. So keep practicing it until you can do it on your own. Now, I'd like to ask something, and I want you all to drop your comment in the comment section, and please start by telling us where you're watching this video from all over the world so we can give you a shout out. So at what instance did you notice, or what instance, what actually calls out to you when it comes to words of affirmation? Share instances with your own spouse. You don't necessarily you can just do it and then tell me I did it, and let's find out how it happened. So I want you to share instances with your spouse where words had a profound impact on you. Is it negatively or is it positively? I also want you to note that for one whose love language is words of affirmation, when you use negative words on them, it has a very strong negative impact. So one has to be very careful. Do you need help with getting words of affirmation? I told you this book is very practical. So I dropped the link in the bio when I dropped the review for chapter 1. But for the case of for the purpose of this particular chapter, I'm still going to drop the link in the bio. Now download the book and then go to page 36 to 37 of that book. What Gary Chapman did there was he gave out a list and a breakdown of some words of affirmation and how to use them. So you can go there, look at it. The book is free. All you just need to do is download it, look at it, and write down the ones you feel goes with your spouse, and then begin to use it. But please come back and give us a feedback. Let's know how well, or let's know what you've discovered about your spouse. Thank you very much everyone for staying with me till this time. I hope you got something new from this particular chapter, words of affirmation. If you didn't take anything home, know and remember that words of affirmation is not just about verbal complimenting. It has different dialects. So it's possible that your spouse may not really be a verbal complimenting kind of person, but maybe someone who requires encouraging words or any other of those. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow, invite someone, tell people about this. I know this is very rare. It's actually very rare. So tell people about it. Let's recultivate once again the reading culture in our society. Let's build capacity together. Thank you very much, everyone, and God bless you.